Hi everyone, I'm Jocelyn, and I am grateful you're here. You're listening to the Starting with Gratitude podcast. This is a safe space intended to host meaningful conversations exploring all topics of the human experience. Every conversation starts with gratitude and remains rooted in gratitude. After you listen, make sure to join the community by subscribing and sharing. I am so happy you have joined us.
Hello, everyone, my beautiful people. This is your girl, your amiga, your podcast host of Starting with Gratitude, Jocelyn. And I am excited to get into this episode and this little tidbit of conversation that I want to have with you regarding something that I am so genuinely grateful for. I've been reflecting a lot on the peace that I feel at this time and been reflecting on what has contributed to that peace. Exactly, about a year ago today, around this time, I was going through so many sudden, unexpected life changes that really uprooted me and shook me in so many ways. The thing that I'm so grateful for, one thing that has contributed to the peace that I have now, is surrendering. I am so grateful to have surrendered to the flow of life. It's so interesting how simple that is. And yet, we all have this tendency to need to have complete control over our lives. And when we notice that we actually don't have control, we freak out, we get scared, and our reaction is to resist the flow of change, of endings, of beginnings, of newness. I'm so grateful to have eventually surrendered, because for quite some time there, your girl was resisting change. And I'm sure you all can relate to this. I'm sure you all have experienced your own lessons regarding surrendering to the changes in your life, surrendering to not having complete control, surrendering to new possibilities, surrendering to endings taking place, surrendering to relationships coming to an end, surrendering to new beginnings, surrendering to the uncertainty that comes with new beginnings, or perhaps the unknown, because you don't always have to have uncertainty to surrender. There is certainty with surrender. And that certainty comes from faith, from trust. And I'm not talking about, religious faith. You can not be religious and be full of faith. Faith that everything is going to work out for you. Faith that everything is working in your favor, in your highest good. Faith that you are capable of overcoming anything that comes your way. Faith that you are so powerful that you can manifest the life of your dreams. That's the faith that I'm talking about. With surrender comes acceptance, comes letting go and letting be. And I'm going to say this again, but I'm so grateful to have surrendered eventually after months of resisting change in my life, specifically in the endings of certain relationships, specifically also in the course of my path, my pursuits, my environment changing, surrendering to all of it and choosing faith over fear. Choosing faith over fear is what you are essentially doing when you finally decide to surrender. The reason why I say faith over fear is because when you surrender, when you choose to surrender, you are choosing faith. When you choose to resist, you are choosing fear. Resistance is rooted in fear. Fear that things aren't going to work out, fear that things aren't going your way, fear that you don't know what's going to happen on the other side of this, fear that if this relationship ends, you're going to lose this, and that, fear that if you don't overcome this, just all these kinds of fears that we instill in ourselves, that we bring upon in ourselves. I find it so interesting how we've developed this fear over the unknown. We've developed this fear over change, over not having control. But when have we ever actually known it all? When have we ever actually had complete control over our lives? The natural state of energy is flow. And when we surrender, we are surrendering to the flow, the natural flow of life, the natural flow of energy. When we resist, we are resisting the flow. We cause friction upon our lives. We make things harder for ourselves. And we even create stagnancy. I'm sure you've noticed this yourself in some season, in some experience of your life where you tried to have control over something. And the more that you held on to it, the more that you attached yourself to it while it was trying to change, trying to walk out of your life, trying to come to an end, and you were holding on and holding on, you felt yourself becoming more stagnant in some way. You felt more friction in your life. It just did not make you feel good to hold on to so tightly to something that was trying to let go of you, right? I know you know what I'm talking about. I know you have experienced this. So why do we resist change? Why do we fear the unknown? Why do we have to have or desire to have so much control over our lives when we know better? Ultimately, surrendering, choosing to surrender, allowing yourself to surrender is also surrendering to your wisdom. Because again, we know that we don't have complete control. We know that change is inevitable. And honestly, because resistance creates so much friction and stagnancy in your life, you feel all this weight, all this burden on you. And when I finally chose to surrender, because honestly, it gets to the point where you're just tired of it. You are exhausted of holding on, of trying to have complete control, and you deplete yourself in the process of resisting to the flow, resisting to the inevitable. And so you get sick of it, you're over it, and you're like, you know what? And you know what? I'm going to speak here for myself. I was just like, you know what? I tried my best. I held on to this for way too long. I'm just going to let go. I'm going to let go. I'm going to let be because I cannot do this any longer. And that is a beautiful breaking point to have because that leads you to surrendering. And when I finally surrendered, I'm telling you, it was a breath of fresh air. It was a breath of fresh air. And there's no doubt in my mind that it contributed to my peace, the peace that I have now. And surrendering is a practice, just like everything else is a practice that we have to consistently commit to and strengthen, just like our muscles. If we stop practicing, our muscles weaken. But if we continue training our muscles and exercising our muscles on a consistent basis, they continue to grow and strengthen. The same goes with faith. The same goes with surrendering. The same goes with love. The same goes with anything that you desire to bring forth in your life. Requires practice. So I'm not saying that I've become an expert in surrendering and now I'm just, incredibly good at just letting everything go. But I'm definitely practicing towards mastering surrendering. And I definitely have gotten better at it. And I definitely have strengthened my faith. And again, this is not the religious faith. This is a spiritual faith. And I know that for some of you, you may think that that's the same thing. But if you're listening to this and you are going through something, and this speaks to you in some way, shape, or form, and you have been holding on, and you already know what I'm talking about when I say that it depletes you, it exhausts you, I am telling you right now to let go. Surrender to the flow. Trust that everything is working in your highest good. Trust that everything is happening for you, not to you. The things that are meant to be in your life aren't going to cause stagnancy or friction. They're not going to deplete you or exhaust you. They're not going to cause dysfunction in your life. They're not going to make you come out of alignment of yourself to bring forth some kind of change that is out of your control. What is meant to be comes with ease. Remind yourself that. Everything that is meant to be, everything that is natural in our lives, everything that is natural in the world is in a state of flow. It is in a state of ease. What are synonyms of flow? It is ease. It is easy. It is calmness. It is tranquility. It is powerful too. Because the element that we think of when we think of flow is water, and water is so powerful. I'm not going to get into the elements and talking about water and all of that good stuff, perhaps in another episode, but I really just wanted to highlight surrendering just for a moment, because I am so grateful to have finally chosen to surrender. And as I reflect back on my life and every pivotal moment of my life where things turned out so much better than I imagined, the root of that pivot that ultimately led to a much better version of myself, a much more aware version of myself, a much more aligned version of myself was the moment that I chose to finally surrender. So I hope that you all took something from this. I hope that you all feel inspired to surrender to anything that is going on in your life that you feel you've been resisting. And I hope that you become curious about the possibilities, the exciting possibilities that exist in the unknown, that exist in change. Yeah, there's so much more that I can speak on this, but I'm going to leave that there because I want these little episodes where it's just me to just be little tidbits of pep talks and personal stories and channeled messages that I feel called to share. And today I felt called to share a bit about surrendering, Thank you all so much for listening, for tuning in, whether you are watching this on YouTube or you are listening to this on your favorite podcast platform. If it is on Apple, please leave a review. It helps my podcast so much. And your girl is needing some reviews, okay? It's looking a little dry on the reviews. So if you love this podcast episode and you listen to it on Apple, please leave a review, leave your thoughts. I would love to read them. And I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Choose to surrender, y'all. I promise you, it's going to be one of the best decisions that you make in your life that is going to contribute so much goodness to your life. It's going to make your life so much easier. All right, y'all. Peace and blessings. I'll see you in the next Starting with Gratitude episode. Bye, everyone.